Hello everyone. The previous speaker gave you the explanation that he is sleep deprived and he traveled 19 hours. So I've been stuck in airports for 3 days. I was stuck in Okinawa because of typhoon. Then I got stuck in Tokyo for a whole day for my next connection flight. And I came here yesterday. So I am totally running on vapor. No brain, just vapor. And I hadn't agreed what the topic would be. So I got the message in the morning. He will agree to that. And I was thinking what would be interesting. So I thought, I should, where's the clicker? Sorry, apologies. So I thought I should probably turn something boring into something more interesting. So I thought I will take the idea of privacy and try explain in a general sense that we could actually have more tools to achieve privacy, assuming we agree privacy is something that's useful. I'm kind of going to give you economic arguments to why I think privacy could be useful. Okay, so that's what is called privacy, but it doesn't really work in that sense. So we have this, where everybody who uses Facebook really realized that their data had been given to somebody else, and they used it to gain money and influence election decisions. What does this imply? What that implies is, in some sense of a form, we have some information asymmetry. So there are some players in the market who have a better knowledge of you or I about what we are capable of, or what we can do, or what our future state would be. Okay, and this becomes more relevant when we have a tragedy of common situation. I'll go from this backwards. So imagine we have a situation, we have a public healthcare and parts of it is being privatized, right? So now think about the information asymmetry. If the parties who actually offer the services in healthcare recognizes who their best patients are by getting extra information that's not visible to or even data that's visible to the healthcare provider, they will take all the ones that are good. And the society as a whole, which is being paid by a taxpayer, okay? In this case, in the UK, that was the case, right? And they will have to underwrite the loss, right? So we have this problem. The problem we had during banking. Essentially, if you have bad behavior, that's cows, I got it from Wikipedia, but you can think of it as goats or whatever animal that eats grass. We have a village, and in the middle of the village, there's a very big grassland, and we all agree to everybody that we will have 2 hours of grazing time, right? In the night, we won't do anything. But in the night, if I do send out my cows, cats, or goats, whatever that is that eats grass, to eat the grass, nobody will, as long as nobody finds it out, I win. Everybody else loses, right? And that was the case with banks. If banks really don't comply by something and screw the place up, and if the society as a whole is going to pay for fixing that, we all pay for the downside. The upside is for the people who do the bad things, right? So if you go back and look at what Cambridge Analytica and Facebook did, is exactly that, right? So they have information, and they, in that sense, is supposed to behave in a particular manner. But if they behave in a manner where they have some advantage and everybody else has a disadvantage, in a democracy, this is very important, you need to understand. In a democracy, the assumption is that everybody votes on the same set of information, and the ability for people to influence others are kind of symmetric. And this is being broken by Cambridge Analytica and Facebook, okay? So that's my argument about privacy, okay? So I gave you 3 arguments. First is the case of development markets, both in terms of healthcare and in terms of democracy, right? And then there's the general privacy argument of things that you don't want to reveal. But that's up to you to decide on. Okay, now, right, there are well-known possible solutions to solutions about privacy. One is the homomorphic encryption, where you actually want to come to Ukraine, put flights to Odisha in Google, and when you log into your email, you will actually get an ad for cheap flights to Odisha, right? Everybody has seen this. So you could actually do this. There's this guy. Where's the guy's picture? Wow, picture is missing. Right, okay. Okay, that guy. So that guy did a PhD. His PhD thesis was on homomorphic encryption. What essentially that means is you can actually search in an encrypted database. Or, simply put, you can go to Google and search for flights to Odisha, and when you look at the email, even though Google has given you the right results, they would have no clue what you were searching for, okay? That's one technical solution. There are other solutions that are possible. Like, in fact, there was a question asked by somebody in the audience in the previous to previous talk about Tumblebit. So Ethan Hellman, that's actually a kind of a onion protocol. It's essentially, you do a probabilistic average of a whole bunch of things. Okay, that can give you a sense of privacy, but it's not really resistant to traffic analysis. Okay, so I'm going to go jump straight into cryptoeconomics and try explain why I think it is maybe possible for us to actually have the right kind of behavior. Right kind of behavior in that sense, what I mean by that is if you have a privacy policy, making sure that your privacy policy is being complied to. Cryptoeconomics. Cryptoeconomics is a new thing that Vlad and the rest of the guys came up with. I was expecting Vlad to be here, so I was going to ask him, he could give the definition properly. I don't know. So the thing that I think most interesting is the fact that a formal studies protocol govern production, distribution, and consumption of goods and services in a decentralized economy. And it's a hybrid child of two things. One is, what do you call economics, which I have no clue about. I know a bit about. And this is the other piece that I know about. I mean, I researched in this piece. So the real difference is, like, if you look at economics, the difference would be like social science chiefly concerned with the description and analysis of production, distribution, and consumption of goods and services. Okay? The only difference and the key difference, where is that? Right? Is consumption of goods and services is actually digital goods and services and in a decentralized economy. Okay? That's the key two differences that you need to recognize. So you can actually think of cryptoeconomics being a subset for in a special case where things happen in a digital world where the trust system that normally we have is decentralized. Okay, what does it really mean? Okay, so I'm kind of describing, but this is truly irrelevant right now. I'll skip this because I was trying to give you an idea about value of data and how value discovery really happens. But to me, there's no time. But I can try describe what we need to do in very simple terms. I mean, typically I describe this incentives and penalties using kids and things like that. I don't have any, okay? So this is an imaginary kids that behave according to principles of economics and logical behavior. So the ideal candidates are between the age of one less than X less than 3. So you have them in a room and then you create a bunch of rules. You can imagine the privacy as a set of rules that you actually have. And you give them stars. Stars are like the rewards that you give, and the incentive will be for them to play games. Okay, I'm assuming this is a legal thing to do, meaning it's a good thing to do. I'm just making assumptions. So if you have kids, what I'm saying doesn't make sense, please forgive me. This is just my ignorance speaking. So in a room where there are kids and you want them to behave in a particular manner, which is called good behavior, and this good behavior could translate to agreeing to privacy models, right? Not sharing information that they shouldn't be sharing, right? And what you do then is actually give them incentives. Incentives are things that they will enjoy in some way, shape, or form. It could be pure, value transaction, value in that sense, or it could be arbitrary things. So in this case, I'm kind of saying, they can play a console game for a period of time, a unit of time, okay? And penalty would be like, literally speaking, what I've been told is naughty corner, not being allowed to, partake in the game, okay? So if there's a game happening and you've been told that you broke the rule, you are not allowed to play the game. You go sit in the corner, right? This is like very simplistic sense of how cryptoeconomics would work, right? And I don't think we should probably go into the attacker model, but I can probably use TCRs. How many people in this room have actually heard about TCRs? Token curated registries. Okay. Can you put your hand up so at least TCRs, token curated registries? Okay, right. So it's quite simple, right? Imagine the way to describe this as being, somebody really stakes for a particular case, as in like, in a situation, imagine somebody makes a claim, and you want to make sure that the community really votes for the claim, right? So this is a cryptoeconomic mechanism by which the people who actually stakes for the right claim gets rewarded for that, and somebody who actually makes a fake claim will lose their value. So you could actually enforce this. This is actually an easy mechanism to do. So you could actually have everybody who's part of the ecosystem to verify for somebody's privacy statement. So people will stake against them, and then what would happen is, like, if they are not really complying to the privacy statements, then they will actually lose whatever value they have. So imagine a situation where you have a tokenized protocol where you actually also have published cryptographically provable claims. I skipped that bloody slide. I should have actually gone through the slide. Sorry. No, there's some primitives I need. I just skipped it. So hold on. Let me just go back. Oh shit! I removed the slide. I am such bad. Okay. Well, it doesn't really matter. So the thing essentially is something like this. You turn up and you make a claim and you build a protocol. These are the things that I would actually comply by. Think about Facebook, and Facebook says that they won't actually reveal your information to any third party in that sense. So now the question is like, if you actually think Facebook has actually done this, you can stake against them. They have actually shared the data with Cambridge Analytica, and I put, imagine like an arbitrary betting game, right? I bet my $100 that, Facebook has actually given my data to Cambridge Analytica, and they bet. And when there's proven otherwise, whatever that Facebook is supposed to get. So imagine they're getting the ad revenue from somebody, and this bet is put on the ad revenue of Facebook. Then there's a very good incentive for Facebook to actually play fair, because the revenue they're going to get is actually going to the people who are going to challenge them. Okay? So in that sense, yeah, it is possible. And then there's this concept that most of the data that we actually have has a half-life. Essentially what that means is like, most of the things that we have in terms of value of things is for a period of time, right? When you buy a house, sometimes that actually will be a lease. It's for 100 years, right? So you're getting a lease of a house, but you almost say you buy a house, right? Similarly, data in that sense actually has a half-life, and beyond that point in time, the value of the data will decrease exponentially. So it could be like the life expectancy of a person. So things that you did probably is not very relevant once you're dead. Sorry, just making assumptions here. Okay, some people might be offended even after they're dead that the things they did, but in general, the assumption would be like whatever you did when you're gone, who gives a shit, right? So data actually has this characteristic. So you could actually implement things that allow you to factor this into your so-called cryptoeconomics. So you could actually have a game theoretic argument where the penalty that you will actually incur on revealing things at different points in time could actually vary. And once it's after the time that it's useful, essentially that's the argument that was proposed by him. Like there could be some trade-offs of privacy that's not very good. So you can actually have the value of that competing against the value of privacy. Okay, right, fine. I don't have much, but so yeah, this is essentially me giving an argument that this is not easy at this moment in time. Say if you take an arbitrary protocol, and if you recognize the protocol, don't mention it. So there's a cost for doing that, and that number gives you that's not really the most recent, but essentially that gives you an idea that for anything to be done right now, and if you are using smart contracts to do that, the value discovery is not going to be efficient. It won't happen in the time that you want. But for some things, it might work. I don't know if it will really work for privacy for small value things. So is the privacy valuable for a value of something very tiny? It is unlikely that you can implement such a protocol on any of the existing blockchains. And yeah, as I would describe, as all things, you would discover what the market is really willing to pay for it. In terms of, if you create a token and, create such a game, and the game will play itself out, at the end of the day, you will figure out what really society values for privacy. If the value of privacy for society is negative, then we understand that's the case, and then we can flip this around. Thank you all. That's it. You can shoot questions at me.
Shoot.
Yeah.
I have a question.
Oh, yeah, go for it.
So, I think yesterday, the New Zealand Supreme Court received the extradition of Kim Jong-un.
Yeah, Kim Jong-un, yeah.
So, how do you think that could affect decentralized storage? How regulation could affect?
Okay, I'll add a bunch of caveats to this before I say anything, right? So to start with, I helped Trent with Ocean Protocol. I know who and the rest of the guys. I'll always have disclaimers against all these people. For me, what will happen is there's always been a P2P ecosystem that's been existing. Last 10 years, more than 10 years, a P2P protocols has been existing. There's always been a chase for anything that looks like what I would describe as anything that is not a real node. Anything that's a super node, in that sense, if you run it, they could chase you. If it's truly decentralized, the chances of anybody who has ability to enforce anything will be decreasing. And so far, what I've noticed is anytime the decentralized world meets the centralized world, that's the choking point. That's where they will be able to enforce things using legal parameters. That will be KYC, AML for normal value transactions, exchanges in that sense, and other things of that sort. So if you get to a stage where storage and value discovery is truly decentralized, that will be not IPFS. It's very likely it will survive. If it's going to be centralized, I don't know. Sorry.
One more question, Anish.
Oh, yeah.
I want to refer to price discovery issues, the price discovery questions. So it's the broad question for all the guys who look into the best way to deliver the tokens or whatever. So maybe you have some thoughts about what is the model. Maybe it's some kind of auction, like Dutch auction, second price auction, or something. What is the best instrument to fix the market price to discover it?
Okay. Thanks for a very interesting. Yeah. I'll be very honest. It's like the cryptoeconomics is actually in a very early stage. We are talking about humans, right? So I shall admit my understanding of human psychology is very limited. Okay, so a lot of what we have been actually thinking about and looking at, if you look carefully at crypto protocols, is we assume humans to be logical actors. And what you're kind of referring to, how do you fix human psychology? Or how do you model it in that sense? I mean, whatever we try to do, so for example, token pricing. If you look at the instances where they actually had more sophisticated model for price discovery, they seem to have a very bad uptake. Simply put, if ever you force a human to think, the chances that they will be willing to think is infinitesimally small, is what people who study human behavior tell you. So I honestly don't know. I mean, make it as simple as possible and as logical as possible, outsource the thinking to something else. I don't know.